where the news is shady and the newscasters shine bright like diamonds, with Zaina Peterson
and Joel Foster, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson. First,
the local headlines.
Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich is pushing forward legislation that could expand the state's terrorism laws to include more crimes and add mandatory minimum sentences. Brnovich argues that current state law limits terrorism to plots or attacks on government buildings and that terrorism-related crimes don't carry minimum sentences. He wants to add a tax on all public buildings and make a minimum sentence of 10 years for those convicted of an act of terrorism. Brnovich was urged to strengthen our laws when he heard about an Arizona man who plotted to attack a DMV office but only faced minor charges for the act. And it looks like Brnovich's dreams may come true. Republican Warren Peterson introduced a bill yesterday that would deliver Brnovich his terrorism wish list.
With all the issues going on in Arizona, it's good to know our lawmakers' priorities are straight, because clearly the most pressing issue is, why can I bring my gun everywhere? Senator John Kavanaugh is reintroducing the bill he proposed last year that would allow concealed carry permit holders bring their guns into Arizona public buildings. Senate Bill 1243 would require public establishments to allow concealed carry permit holders to bring their penis extensions in with them. Kavanaugh argues that people screened for weapons permits can be trusted in public buildings and that criminals are already carrying guns into public places. Democratic Senator Steve Farley says there are certain buildings that should never allow guns, such as the Department of Child Safety, where emotions often run high. Farley adds that most gun owners don't believe there is a need for looser gun laws in the state. Farley says that having guns around can cause confusion among law enforcement because it's difficult to determine who is a good guy with a gun rather than a bad guy with a gun. Kavanaugh's reply to that was that bad guys have facial scars and wear no shirt.
Local experts say that the proposed tariff for Mexican imports would negatively impact the Arizona economy. Mexico is Arizona's largest trading partner, with $30 billion in imports and exports being exchanged between the two countries, plus 100,000 jobs being supported by the partnership. Mexican tourists also spend about $7.8 million in Arizona every day. Robert Medler, vice president of the Tucson Metro Chamber, says that the money from tariffs will go to the government rather than the Arizona economy and would definitely have an adverse impact on the state. George Hammond, director of Eller College's Economic and Research Center, says the tariff may also impact exports to Mexico because the tax might engage a trade war between the two countries.
A local immigrant rights group fears that there will be an increase in migrant deaths once the border wall is built. The Colibri Center for Human Rights works to identify dead bodies near the border and reunites the remains with the families abroad. Kate Rodriguez, a member of the Colibri Party, said that the wall wasn't discourage migrants from crossing the border, but will just send them to more isolated and dangerous areas. She's afraid that her organization will be getting an influx of calls, meaning more people will die trying to cross the border. Rodriguez said that not enough thought is put into finding why migrants are crossing the border in the first place. Rather, the U.S. is only focusing on keeping them out. She said that the most of the migrants would rather be at their home countries, but come to the U.S. because of violence in their homelands or because of the slow-moving immigration process.
Arizona Representative Raul Grijalva is also speaking out against Donald Trump's decision to erect a border wall and possibly cancel the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA. Grijalva says that Trump is waging war with human decency. He also said that while Mexico and DACA recipients are the direct victims today, it is the American people who will be harmed the most in the end. Grijalva is also railing against Trump's recent plan to enact a 20% tax on Mexican imports, which he says will devastate communities in Mexico. Tucson City Council member Regina Romero joined Grijalva in speaking out against Trump's policies this week, as she reaffirmed the city's support for its immigrant community.
A Tucson man is sending the news this week, giving free haircuts and medical care to the homeless people of the city. Cosmetology student Juan Carlos Mendiosa said that he got the idea from a Tucson Angels Facebook group, where a member gave haircuts to a woman with cancer. Montes Diosa is looking for volunteers from the community to help paint nails and cut hair. The event takes place on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the downtown library.
And I want to take a moment to talk about the program you're watching right now. Here at 5 on 20, we're undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We're going to give you the news as we see it, and we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves, so join us. Do it. Do it now. Email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing, or a person we should interview, or an upcoming event we should cover, or have any news tips for us, shoot an email at info@creativetucson.org. We're here for you, and we want to cover all the stories from all points of view, so don't be strangers. Now, in national and international news.
A federal judge called insurance giant Aetna's bluff yesterday, ruling that the company misled the public about why they pulled out of the Affordable Care Act, better known as Obamacare. Aetna announced last year that they would be pulling out of all but 4 of 15 states where it will be previously providing insurance for the ACA. The company claimed that it was a business decision because they were losing too much money on the state exchanges. However, Judge John D. Bates found that Aetna actually pulled out as a retaliation for being denied a $37 billion merger with Humana, another insurance giant. The narrative that Aetna couldn't afford to stay in the exchange was often used as evidence that Obamacare was collapsing under its own weight. The storyline was used to gain the public support for appealing and replacing the ACAs. Aetna executives tried to hide their decision-making process from the courts by discussing the merger in phone calls rather than email. Bates called this behavior close to malfeasance, but really it probably was a full-off malfeasance. The judge found that Aetna pulled out of exchanges where the company was profitable in order to make a point in their defense, then misled the public. The evidence was a letter sent to the Justice Department by Aetna's CEO, Mark Bartoloni, that tied the company's participation in the ACA with the Justice Department's decision on the merger. Judge Bates also pointed out that the company was planning to expand 20 more states before they pull it out of the exchanges, making Aetna's argument even more limp.
And we have yet another brilliant idea by our tangerine-in-chief. Donald Trump says that he will pay for his gorgeous, delightful, perfect 10 wall with a 20% tariff for imports from Mexico. Economists say that this will likely drive up the prices for goods coming out of the country, which is basically everything at this point. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer made the announcement yesterday afternoon from Air Force One, so maybe the low oxygen was making him spout crazy ideas. Both parties have criticized the plan, including Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who tweeted that any idea that would make tequila and Corona more expensive is mucho bad. Spicer made the bizarre comment that the plan was more illustrative than prescriptive, which means that they're wasting our time. He said that they came out with the plan to show that there is an easy way to fund the wall, because nothing is easier than getting involved in a trade war with your neighbor.
Now that we actually have to start considering logistics and repercussions of Trump border wall, it turns out some major drawbacks rather than just lacking any kind of realistic logic. While the construction of the wall is unlikely to have any kind of noticeable impact on immigration, it will have an undeniable effect on the climate and already threatened endangered species. Conservationists have recently indicated that the amount of concrete needed alone would produce huge amounts of carbon dioxide, with Bloomberg New Energy Finance predicting quantities up to 1.9 million tons depending on just how high the downward wants to go. Something no one actually knows, since the whole concept has been built upon vagueness. The problem is easy enough to dismiss, since our new leader has enlightened us that climate change is actually a hoax perpetuated by the Chinese. But this doesn't solve the complication of a wall prevent animals from moving out their native range. Many animals, including endangered species such as the jaguars and ocelots, will not be able to move north as the climate warms. If only we had some kind of agency that protected the environment to prevent these kinds of things.
If only, right?
Right.
Here's a little reminder of how tremendous those oil pipeline approvals were. On Monday, 140,000 gallons of diesel fuel leaked from a pipeline run by Magellan Midstream Partners in Iowa. The pipeline travels through multiple Midwestern states. A spokesman for the Iowa Department of Natural Resources said that a pipeline rupture caused the leak and that it is a significant spill. By the end of the day Monday, worker crews were able to clean up about 25,000 gallons of fuel from the snow-covered grounds. Last October, another pipeline run by Magellan leaked in Omaha, Nebraska, causing the evacuation of 23 households after the pipes ruptured. In 2010, the company paid over $46,000 in fines for violating the Clean Water Act, and $418,000 in the same year for a 45,000-gallon gasoline spill. So in other words, a well-run company. The spill came on the same day that Donald Trump revived plans to allow the Dakota Access and Keystone XL pipelines in the U.S. Upon hearing about the Magellan spill, Trump said he plans to punish the company by forcing it to build a pipeline that crosses through 10 Native American burial grounds.
The Jolly team at the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist says that we're now closer to doomsday. On the upside, you can skip that New Year's diet. The scientists moved the doomsday clock forward 30 seconds closer to midnight, leaving it 2.5 minutes away. The doomsday clock has been operating since 1947 and was invented by scientists who worked on the Manhattan Project that brought the birth of the first atomic bomb. In 1953, the clock was moved 2 minutes from midnight after seeing the U.S. and Soviet Union test out hydrogen bombs. It remained at that point until 1960, until it was rolled back, that this is the first time that the clock has been moved by 30 seconds at one time. The significance of the clock is to assess the dangers of nuclear warfare, which does seem pretty likely now that they mention it. The group criticized Donald Trump on his lack of openness, his intemperate statements, and his questionable cabinet picks. Trump denied the statements, then threatened a nuclear strike against the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientist before appointing Kelsey Grammer to reprise his Fraser role and lead the newly created Department of Funny Guys.
Great guy, great person.
Amazing.
Politico is reporting that Trump's barrage of executive orders this week could run into legal trouble down the road. Trump did not consult with the proper departments before signing the documents. One example was Trump's approval of the Keystone XL pipeline, which would transfer oil from Canada into the U.S. The company who runs the pipeline is currently suing the U.S. for $15 billion for costs associated with preparing for the project. President Obama decided against the project after massive public backlash. A proposed rule bringing back enhanced interrogation techniques would also run into trouble, as these torture methods are opposed by Senator John McCain, the incoming Defense Secretary James Mattis, and CIA Director Mike Pompeo. In fact, it appears that no one except Trump supports a return to torture. But this makes sense for a president that enjoys watching golden showers. The biggest issue remains the huge, stunning, sexy wall, which still has no clear method of funding. Congress will need to allocate funds in order for the project to begin, which will be a hard sell, even with a Republican majority in Congress. Politico also reported that White House advisor Steve Bannon, who is the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News, wrote most of the signing statements. Bannon has taken an unusual amount of command in the White House, rising above the usual role of an advisor. White House sources also say that Bannon has been pressuring the president to end the DACA program, which allows temporary amnesty to undocumented immigrants who are brought here as children. Could we be seeing the seeds of an imperial mutiny going on? In related news, White House staffers have been finding white beard pubes piling around Trump's desk.
Speaking of the haggard one, Steve Bannon did an interview with the New York Times yesterday where he called the media the, quote, opposition party. Bannon said that the media was humiliated by Trump's win and has used their position to try to discredit his presidency. He says that publications like the New York Times and the Washington Post were practically activists of the Clinton campaign and should be fired for their behavior. He also criticized mainstream media for ignoring voices of the right, not seeming to realize that the New York Times was interviewing him at the exact moment. He also seemed not to realize that Breitbart News, the company he formerly runs, is also the media, unless he doesn't consider Breitbart to be real news, which is okay because neither do we.
Mike Pence announced that he will appear at today's March for Life walk in Washington, D.C. The March for Life walk is an annual event to show opposition to abortion laws. The walk takes place on the anniversary of the Roe v. Wade decision and has been going on since 1974. Pence will be the first vice president to attend the rally, although past presidents Bush and Reagan have lended their support during their presidencies. Pence is one of the fiercest abortion opponents to occupy the White House and has instituted anti-abortion legislation when he was governor of Indiana. Despite the high-profile Trump freakouts about the size of his inauguration crowd, the real story this week was laws targeting abortion. On Tuesday, Trump signed a global gag rule that would ban funding for any international organization that offers abortion services. Also, the House passed legislation giving human rights to unborn fetuses. We're thinking it might be time for another one of those women's marches because our leaders seem to have forgotten about it already.
And the chief of the U.S. Border Patrol is heading south as he was canned one day after Donald Trump releases his big, beautiful plans for the wall on the Mexican border. Chief Mark Morgan said that he was asked to leave on Thursday morning, but he chose to resign instead of fighting the decision. Morgan informed Border Patrol agents in a video conference on Thursday. Morgan was named chief last June and officially took over in October. He was the first outsider to lead the agency, and then this created some tension among the Border Patrol Union, who largely supports Trump's plan. The union was angered by comments made by Morgan in December, where he said that he supports comprehensive immigration reform in the U.S. That term is often misinterpreted as supporting amnesty. Morgan then clarified his statement, saying that he does not support blanket amnesty, but by then, the damage was already done. Border Patrol agents sensed that the change was afoot because Trump neglected to mention Morgan's name when he visited the Department of Homeland Security on Wednesday. Instead, Trump called attention to Border Patrol Union Chief Brandon Judd, who looks poised to take over. The announcement came on the same day of a massive shakeup in the state. Also on Thursday, several senior State Department officials were let go from their positions. Trump plans to replace them with the forecast of Homeland because the president says they are quite very freedomish.
Speaking of human pigs, scientists have created a human-pig hybrid embryo for the first time because, why not? Scientists at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in La Jolla, California said that their goal is to grow functional and transplantable tissue or organs in humans. However, the team said that they were a long way off, but the new monstrosity is a good first step. Their experiments have reignited old ethical concerns about mixing humans with other species. The U.S. National Institute of Health even went so far as to ban funding for controversial experiments such as the Salk Institutes. The results were published in the journal Cell, where it outlines their process of injecting human stem cells into early-stage pig embryos. More than 2,000 hybrids were used to create over 150 human pig embryos, although only 1 in 10,000 cells were human, with most of the organisms still having the qualities of a pig. Over time, the team envisions a future where pigs can be used to incubate human tissue and organs to be used for transplants. However, there are a few downsides, such as the pig pregnancy only lasting for 112 days compared to 9 months for humans. This means that the human and pig cells are developing at 2 different rates, which could present problems. Scientists caution that an even bigger drawback is that humans who receive pig parts will forever smell like delicious bacon.
In an unfortunate but predictable development, Arkansas's governor has approved a ban on the most common and arguably safe procedure of second trimester abortions, known as dilation evacuation. Governor Asa Hutchinson signed the bill just hours after it was approved by the GOP majority Senate with a 25-6 vote. The law wouldn't take effect until 90 days after the legislature formally adjourns its 2017 session, which typically occurs in April or May, and is expected to face a legal challenge beforehand. Hutchinson did not release a statement immediately following the approval. However, Republican Senator David Sanders, who co-sponsored the measure, told lawmakers he thinks that this is a humane bill and moves us to more compassionate society. The compassion, of course, being directed at the fetus only up until it's actually born and not towards the mother. The American Civil Liberties Union of Arkansas has called the measure unconstitutional. Similar bans are already in effect in Mississippi and West Virginia, while being on hold due to legal challenges in Alabama, Kansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. This is the latest in string of blows to women's rights and sexual health, with Trump's recently expanding the ban on the provision of federal money to international family planning groups that provide abortion or even information about abortion, and stating that he plans to fill a vacancy on the U.S. Supreme Court with an abortion opponent. Democratic Senator Joyce Elliott provided a small light of sound judgment amid the black hole of lunacy that is currently Arkansas's political stage, with the following statement: "It's as if we want to practice medicine, and if we do, I think we should all go to medical school and become doctors. Saying we're going to outlaw something because we disagree with the procedure, that is a medical procedure, is something we can seem to get our heads around. The Arkansas legislator will not look to outlaw all forms of invasive surgery because they're, quote, icky and gross. The gory slicing up of women's rights, however, will continue unabated." This was Zana Peterson.
And Joel Foster for 5 on 20 News.
Next up, Joel gives us on his take on the recent political melee.
All right, welcome to This Week in Mediocrity, where we present you with all the best and the worst of the media. I'm your host, Joel Foster, and I just realized I haven't shaved since the election. I'm pleased to say that we're Trump-free today. When you start seeing his ghost image tattooed inside your eyelids, maybe it's time to take a break. So that's what we're going to do. Today we're going to instead focus on the Women's March, where last weekend over 1.5 million people marched around the world. The event was meant for women worldwide to defend against the incoming barrage of laws intended to roll back a generation of gains for women's rights. Or, if you're in the alternative news bubble, it was a plot by Islamic jihadists to take over the country. Let's explain. It all began with one of the organizers of the march, Linda Sansauer, a Brooklyn-born Muslim woman of Palestinian descent. Sansauer is director of the Arab American Association of New York, who formed after 9/11 to fight back against what they viewed as anti-Arab sentiment in the United States. So naturally, she's a terrorist, right? Well, at least according to Front Page Mag, who posted an article this week linking Sansauer to so many anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian causes that she kind of comes off as the jihadi version of Forrest Gump. But if you follow the links, all of them are at best misleading, at worst full-out lies. The article has so many links to other articles that it would take a day to cover them all, so I'm just going to pick one. In the article, they accuse Sansauer of wanting a one-state solution and says that she made clear her opposition to Israeli existence in a tweet. But when you follow the link, it leads you to a local story about Sansauer actually receiving a neighborhood do-gooder award, and where she says this about a one-state solution. So the one-state solution means that she wants everyone to live together in peace in one state. That's not quite as scary as the article made her out to be. Also, in the same story, she says that she doesn't oppose Israel's right to exist, but simply wants the two groups to peacefully coexist. Terrorist. Sansauer came up again through internet memes, the political version of a bacon-wrapped pizza. In the memes, Sansauer is seen showing her holding up the one-finger sign. She was linked to the Islamic State because they also hold a finger up as a symbol, which they may have gotten from every sports team that's ever existed. You know who else is a terrorist? Miss Jackson, if you nasty. But let's ignore all logic and assume that she is a terrorist. If she is a secret Muslim jihadist, what is she trying to do exactly? Is her plan to just round up a bunch of women, then convince them to give up all their rights and live under Sharia law? If that's ISIS's master plan, then I say go ahead and let them try it. Are women just going to hand in their pussy hats in return for hijabs? Why would you get a bunch of liberal, hedonistic, nasty women and hope to convert them? And this is why none of the mainstream media, even Fox News, didn't cover this story, because even for them, it doesn't make any sense. So who would be dumb enough to push such a plot?
Twist to all that, there was a globalist double-cross plan to carry out 9/11 with Saudi Arabia to then take over the Middle East, take out Islam's non-radical enemies, then open up Europe and the United States, bring in the jihad, and make us conform to them. But that plan is basically leaked. It's been exposed. But that's why I said on the live stream Saturday, in the middle of them screaming and cussing at me, because there were so many Islamic men and so many Islamic women wearing hijabs and holding up signs of women in a red, white, and blue hijab, I said, I bet this is going to be Islamic funded as one of the biggest groups. Turns out the biggest group there, funded by Soros, is a Sharia law group saying women need the freedom of being under Sharia law. I got home and they had the woman on CNN saying, we're going to bring Sharia and freedom to women. They're flipping the script. They're going from denying all this to openly activating. I mean, who could make that up? This is the most racist.
You, for one. We meet again, Alex Jones. Just want to let everyone know that this guy this week was offered White House credentials. That's true. So he'll be rubbing shoulders with the elites of the media now. Maybe we'll finally get that answer from the president about those mole people who control the internet. I know I called him dumb, but just like Trump, I don't really think Alex Jones is dumb. Also, like Trump, I just think he's manipulative. I don't think they actually believe the BS they're shoveling out, but it serves to give them attention, money, and respect, so they continue to do it. So if Alex Jones doesn't really believe the whole Muslim narrative that he's telling, what is he really afraid of? Well, he gives us a little glimpse into his mescaline-dented mind here.
This is the most racist, hateful. They're so cartoonish. And I don't say they were ugly and skinny and zit-covered. I felt bad for them. I mean, if there'd been like 30% of them like that, I didn't see one male that looked as strong as I did. I didn't see any of them that looked as half as manly as I did. And then I looked around with like the war hero security I've got and Navy SEALs, and I'm going to leave it at that. And they looked like twice as tough as I am. And then I look at them, these people are like I could have taken on 50 of these guys. I mean, easily. Easily. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I know. I mean, I've gotten in brawls where you beat down one guy and two more get on you. I mean, the point is, I mean, maybe 100. They were so weak and so shriveled and so dead-looking, it was like a science fiction movie, like some interdimensional spider had sucked their soul out. Man, I'm scared. I've never been scared. We're going to skip this break until now. And I was scared for them because it's like they're demon-possessed folks. It's like we're in a sci-fi movie. And the women were like these bloated, hateful, the faces they would make were so demonic. They were either really young.
Is he gone? Okay. Whew. All right. See, people like Alex Jones and Trump are afraid of seeing women walking in front of wimpy guys. Guys like me, for instance. So I'm going to chat with Alex for a second, Superman to apparently half man. So viewers, now would be a good time to grab some snacks. Alex, listen, I know you don't like people like me. I get it. But just like you have no control over your emotions and are so paranoid that you seem to be in a permanent meth bender, I can't help who I am either. Listen, if I could be the biker with a cool eagle tattoo holding an AK-47, I'd be that guy. But I can't. It can only be me. And I speak for all wimpy white guys when I say that we're not that bad. We don't want to run the world. We're not nearly as confident to do that. Okay, I'm glad we could have that talk. But why would Alex Jones waste all of his time on people like me? After all, he can take 20 or 50 or even 100 of me in a fight. So why would he bother? I think it's something deeper.
They were either really young and really stupid, or they were just hateful old women with men in tow that would all walk behind them and take their orders. So it's a total inversion of reality and just the caricature of what they claimed that men were doing, oppressing women. They are now going to do it to, quote, men.
Okay, so when he talks about reality here, what he's really talking about is patriarchy, men controlling the world. Nothing makes a guy who brags about bar fights more afraid than a woman being in control of his decisions. And I'm assuming that Alex Jones isn't the only one who feels this way. Maybe that's what this whole election was about, men fearing that they're losing their power. Maybe that's what guys mean when they say that the world is changing too fast. So what you ladies did was what us wimpy guys couldn't do because we were too busy arguing on Facebook. You got out there and you took action, and you're scaring these guys to death. This march was like ripping the scab off of Alex Jones's hairy, zit-infested back. Now don't stop tearing that scab off now. All you have to do is what you already do once a month. Just let it bleed. All right, that's all the time we have for this week. I will see you next Friday with another installment of Department of Mediocrity. I'm Joel Foster, and have a great weekend.